In the last half an hour, Greece has submitted a compromise proposal to the Eurozone on its massive debts. It's been seeking to renegotiate its bailout. It broke down earlier this week. The austerity election pledge, and there's a deadline. The current bailout expires on February the 28th. It's just been confirmed that the Eurogroup will convene tomorrow to discuss this latest proposal. Well, much of the talk around this deal has centred on who will blink first, the Eurozone or Greece, in what some people have called a game of chicken. Joining me now from central London is Raoul Ruparel from the Open Europe think tank, which wants to see the EU reformed. Very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us to talk about this. I mean, we're getting into 11th hour territory here, aren't we? And we know that the Greeks, they want, well, one of the things that they want out of this negotiation is reform of the labour market. They want to be able to increase the minimum wage, preserve pensions and so on. What do you think this compromise offer could be, and how much are they going to get from it?
Well, I think it's a positive step that Greece has requested an extension. It does bring the two sides closer together. But as you point out there, on issues such as the labour market, they do have very different views. The crucial question here is how the extension is worded. Has Greece agreed to extend the current programme? I think in all likelihood that will not be the case. I think it will submit a request based around extending the loans, but linked to a set of principles that aren't the old bailout. So these sorts of principles will include a bit more flexibility to expand labour market measures, increase the minimum wage, and a bit more flexibility to increase the fiscal spending. But on the whole, it will still be broadly in the same arena as what we've seen so far.
Because, of course, it will be crucial for the Greek negotiators to be able to go back to the people and say, we have actually achieved some of what we set out to do in terms of these anti-austerity pledges. I suppose the question is, how much grace will the rest of the Eurozone be willing to give them on that front?
Well, it is crucial because at the moment there is a very strong support in Greece for these measures and for the approach the current government is taking. And they did make a lot of election promises, which they now have to at least fulfill some of. So there will be a crucial question about how much they can get and whether they can then sell this deal to the general public. If they can't, we could see their support eroded. We could see the coalition coming under strain, and we could even see the governing party, some of which is willing to leave the euro in order to continue with greater expansion of fiscal spending, greater labour market measures. We could see a lot of tension there. So the Eurozone might give a bit of leeway, but I don't think they'll give enough for Greece to implement all the measures it's wanted. And it will be crucial to see how the Greek government manages to sell that back in Greece to the voters.
And what we could be left with is 6 months from now, these discussions happening all over again, effectively, another set of deadlines.
Well, very much so. It's important to remember, as you say there, this is a short-term deal. What they're looking to do is extend the current bailout by around 6 months, or extend the loan agreement by around 6 months. But the substantial negotiations on Greece's debt level, whether they can get any debt relief, and what policies to implement on things such as labour market, pensions, and on administration, those negotiations still have to happen in detail. So I think there is a long road to run here yet, and these sort of deadlines will come back in the future, and there's still lots of tough decisions to take. But this is a positive step in the short term that at least will avoid Greece falling over the edge of a cliff when the current bailout ends at the end of this month.
Looking at these negotiations that have been going on, particularly in the last week, Raoul, what does this say to you about the Eurozone, the respective economies in the Eurozone, and whether they can continue to work productively together?
Well, it's been a very interesting test for the Eurozone. Obviously, Syriza's election in Greece is the first election of a populist party that really fundamentally challenges the policy approach in the Eurozone and during the Eurozone crisis. I think what we've seen, as many had predicted, is that Syriza has had to soften its position quite significantly from what it set out with. Originally, it set out for, asking for nominal debt relief, writing down a huge amount of debt, and refusing to consider extending the current agreement. Now, with this request, it looks like it may be willing to do that, although we have to see on the exact wording. But fundamentally, I think it's showing that it's very hard to overhaul and change the approach that we've seen throughout the Eurozone crisis, and actually that the whole of the Eurozone is quite wedded to this approach. It's important to remember that Greece has actually found fairly little support from other countries, even those that are struggling, Italy, Spain, Portugal, for radically overhaul and radically changing the approach and doing away with the structural reform and the austerity that we've seen. seen. So the Eurogroup is quite united on this stance, and I think that may send a message to other populist parties that they have a huge challenge if they really want to change things, as they are promising electorates around Europe.
Okay, Raoul Ruparel from the Open Europe think tank, thank you very much.